This oven I've got here, it's just off an old water fire extinguisher. I've just welded two brackets on the bottom as feet, a hinge on the top with a flap on it for a door, and it'll fit onto the stove. I'll just build bricks around it to keep it at a relatively stable temperature. It's been kicking about for a while, so I've scrubbed it out and now I'm just oiling the inside. But it's just basically a container just to try and stabilise the heat and stop ash and stuff from getting on whatever it is you're cooking. This is just the old vegetable oil we use to quench the knife in. Homemade. And this cloth, when I'm finished, I could do another batch of charred material and just use this. So nothing really goes to waste. So I've just got to find a bit of wood to go in there to sit the bread tray on, just to stop hot spots from forming around the bread. Right, making bread. How hard can it be? We've got ourselves a heater, an oven to put it in. I've got flour. It's not the right flour, it's just basic plain flour. I've got yeast, I've got some sugar, I've got some salt, I've got some oil. As far as I'm aware, that's all I need. The box that the yeast came in, there's even some instructions on the back. It's telling me to make it with a particular flour, but that's the particular flour of the maker that's made the yeast, so we're not going to worry too much about that. But if we're making a 1 pound 2 ounce loaf, is that what we're making? What we're making is bread to fit in this tin, which is probably a 1 pound bread tin, probably, I say, because I don't know. So anyway, in a large bowl, mix together the flour, optional sugar, I think we'll put some sugar in it, and salt. Rub in the butter. Well, we'll be using, what will we be using? Margarine probably, or oil. And stir in the yeast. Stir in the water and mix into a soft dough by hand. Knead for about 5 minutes in an electric mixer fitted with a dough hook. Well, I don't have an electric mixer. I do have an electric drill, a cordless drill, but I think I'll just use my hands. Shape the dough, then place in a greased 2 pound tin. Maybe this is a 2 pound tin then, I don't know. Or on a baking tray. Cover with a clean, dry, damp tea towel. This stops dough drying out. And leave in a warm place until doubled in size. Well, this is a warm place. I don't want it too warm, of course. For 1.5 to 2 hours. Uncover and bake in an oven preheated to 230 degrees C. Well, that's fairly warm. For 30 to 35 minutes. The baked loaf should sound hollow when tapped underneath. take the loaf out of the tin and cool on a rack. Right, let's get started then. So how much flour's in here? 1.5 kilos. What's that, over £3? So what, I want a third of this for a £1 loaf? We'll go for a third. That'll do. So that'll do. Right, now what do we want? We want some salt, some sugar, and some... I've got oil. I don't really want to use the oil we've been quenching the knives in. I'm sure I can find some better than that. Be good for your iron content, but I don't know what else might be in it. I'll see what I can come up with. Salt. Right, so we wanted, I'm probably making a slightly smaller loaf than was advertised on the back of the instruction pack. So I probably want less than an ounce of butter. Whatever it is, it's made with buttermilk anyway. So I reckon, what do I reckon that'll be? About, oh, I don't know, half an ounce? I'll put just a little bit more in. I'll put a pinch of salt in. And I'll put 2 teaspoons of sugar in. It did say the sugar was optional. I don't know why it's optional. Let's have a look. In a large bowl, mix together the flour, optional sugar and salt. Optional sugar. And that would be 2 teaspoons of sugar to give added flavour and thicker crust. Optional. We'll put 1 in there. Right, do I put the yeast in now or later? Oh, I need warm water. I need warm water. Well, I've got water there, which is probably too warm. So I'll put some cold water in a cup and... what does it say? 300 millilitres, 10 ounces of warm water. Well, we won't need that much because we're making a smaller loaf, I think. It's funny, isn't it? We're going with ounces for the butter, and we're going with millilitres for the water. This country just cannot make its mind up whether it's metric or imperial. So we use both and we mix them up. We measure sheets of plywood 4 feet by 8 feet by however many millimetres thick. Actually, that's not... no, it is quite hot. Right, so that's going to be more water than we need, and actually it's a bit hot. It's a bit too hot, but I haven't put the yeast in yet. I need to cool that, it's too hot. And I don't want to put it back in because there's a bit of a scum on the surface and I don't know where that's come from. It's probably come from the tea that was in it. It's all going to get baked, so you know, we're not going to worry too much. Right, that's alright. So, we're going to knead it with our hands. We haven't got any of this fancy machinery, although we could put a bent piece of wire in a cordless drill if we wanted to. Baked about 2 loaves of bread previously, but you know, it was a long time ago and certainly the last one didn't work out too well, so yet again, can you see that? You can't see me here, can you? That's better. That's a bit better. It's turning very gooey now. It's still stuck to my fingers though. I haven't got the yeast in yet. I suspect I may need some more flour. At this stage it's all a bit of guesswork. And there are so many variables, if it goes wrong I won't know where it went wrong. It'd be fantastic if it goes right though. I have to chop a bit. Oh well, I'll just have to use some of our supplies of firewood. The ingredients called for 300 millilitres of water, but I suspect we're only going to need about 200. Not sure whether this cup's actually marked. Don't think it is. I'll just do it to a dough-like consistency. When it'll all stick together without being all over the place like it is at the moment. Right, I'm going to put the yeast in now, otherwise it might not get evenly mixed through. I've put one teaspoon of sugar in, and apparently that helps the crust, but I would think it also helps the yeast. I don't know. I thought yeast ate sugar, converted it to alcohol. Although this isn't an alcohol making yeast. How do I get this in half? There's no obvious way to get the yeast open. we go. There's quite a lot of it. It's probably got its own food in there. Doesn't really matter if the bread's too small. I mean, it's a starting point, so I know it's going to rise up a bit because it's just a solid lump at the moment. It's just like a massive piece of pasta. Right, I think I've got to grease my baking tray. Sleeve keeps coming down. It's very springy, very rubbery, elasticy, very elasticy. Right, I'll grease the, what did I do with the butter? There it is. Although no, I don't need to grease it yet. This has to sit first to rise. Do I just rise it in the pan and then let it rise and then stick it in the oven? I think that's what I'll do. So I'll grease the pan now. Won't need much. Right, that'll do. Lid on there, that should be that finished with. The yeast is finished with. There's one active sachet there, one empty one. Put that back in there. It's finished with. Salt's finished with. Sugar's finished with. Let's see, I might need a bit of I might have made the outside of that just a little bit sticky, so I'm just going to put a little bit of that's it. Right, what I'm going to do to warm it, I just want to keep it warm to let the yeast do its stuff and rise. But what I have done is I've put a bit of wood, and that's a bit of damp wood, in the bottom of the oven there, and that'll just keep the tray off the floor and hopefully give it a bit more even heat inside. Right, I've got no idea whether it's going to double or treble or Only come up slightly or what? Double, I would say. If it doubles, that'll be enough. Right, we'll just pop that in there like that. Pop that in there like that. I'll just put that in there. Just keeps it out of the way of the dust, because I'm going to have to get the fire going. So that didn't take long, did it? And I didn't even know what I was doing, really. That's not to say I've done it right. But what I'm going to do now, I use a stick to poke about with. And get these embers across here a bit. That's going to get too hot, that. If I put the stove there, put the oven there, it's going to get too hot. I'll just put it there just to warm up for a few minutes, and then I'll take it off to sit down while I chop some sticks. I'll just leave that there for a short time just to get a bit warm. Now what I'll do is I'll just chop some wood. I'll take it off, I'll put the wood on, let it build up, leave that out in the sun where the sun will warm it, and when it's risen, put the wood on. Well, the wood will have burnt down, put it on the coals, we'll leave it on there for half an hour, 45 minutes, see what we've got, build the bricks round it just to try and stabilise the heat, and we'll see what we get. Right, I'll get back to you. Right, so I managed to find the perfect place for the bread to prove, and that's in the back of the truck with the door shut. So it's not been in long, enough, but we'll just see if it's working. And in fact it is, it's starting to rise there. So we'll just leave it in for another 30 minutes or so, and then that should be ready. By that time the embers will have burnt down on the fire, and it'll be ready for 30 or 45 minutes on the stove with the bricks around it, just to even out the heat. Right, so I'll get the door shut, let the warmth stay in there. Right, so that's the bread has risen to about twice its size. So I put it in the makeshift oven on the forge. The bricks are hot, the embers have burnt down. I'm just containing the top with a bit of bark just to stop the wind from cooling the top down, and we'll leave it in there for 30 minutes. I might have a look, it might need 45 minutes, but hopefully it's not too hot in there. The embers are fairly burnt down and it's sitting well above them, and we've got that piece of wood in there to stop it from scorching, hopefully. But we've just got to give it half an hour, 45 minutes, and see what we've got. Right, well, is that a wasp or a yellow jacket? Right, well, the proof is always in the pudding. It's been a while, about 40 minutes, so it's time. It should be done. Whoa. There we go. Focusing on that, it's focusing on me, isn't it? I should tip it out and tap it on the bottom and it should give me a hollow sound, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to wrap it up and let it cool down slowly. I'm pretty sure that's done. It's been in long enough. I'm just going to wrap it up and let it cool down slowly. So I'll just wrap it up in a shemag. And then when the troops get back we can taste it. So I've just wrapped it up in there. They should be back in an hour or so, and we'll cut it open when they all get back. Or one of them won't be back till late, but the others will be back fairly early. Pull that out of there. Yeah, that bit of wood's actually, a bit of wood is actually got an ember on it. Oh, it's too heavy to pick up, too hot to pick up. Hear that? It's actually on fire. There's actually an ember there. That was the bit of wood that's inside the stove, so it's just as well we did put it on a bit of wood. Right, so this is the finished product, and I baked it 2 days ago. I've eaten most of it. It didn't quite prove enough. Obviously it's gone a little bit harder now because it's been open to the air, but even so, it's not burnt. If I'd have left it to prove a bit longer, it would have been a nice soft loaf. So I think with a bit more practice, I think we're there with the bread. And at the end of the day, it's about getting the energy inside you. I know that this is a bit tough, but it's a bit more tougher now than it was because I've let it sit for I've been eating it. But so if worst comes to the worst, don't call it bread, call it a biscuit. But a bit of tweaking and it'll be however you want it to be. So the oven worked. That wood in the bottom stopped it from burning, and you get something that's quite edible at the end of it. And I would actually like to bake it twice, actually keep it at this consistency, bake it twice, and then it would actually be a rusk instead of bread, which would last. So even though it's not perfect yet, there's a little bit of work to do. It's yet again another success. So we'll leave it there.